Hello, good evening, and welcome to the LFC Daytrippers Forum Show. I'm your host tonight, Keith Plunkett, and I'm joined tonight by Grizz, by Peter, and by Phil. Now, lads, great to have you all on board. Myself and Grizz are new to the forum. We don't usually be around these neck of the woods, but it's going to be
honored.
Honoured, indeed.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Me and you, Keith, we've done so many shows, but we've not done a show with the main man himself, like Phil Casey. It's like I'm like overawed. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm actually quite nervous. I needed a bit of going time just to calm me down before the show.
Yeah, this is just a euphemism for the Liverpool back four this weekend.
This is amazing. We're honoured. I think I speak on behalf of Keith. We're honoured to be on the forum. We really are.
Very much so. But no, the forum I think has been a great idea from the lads when they came up with it, and I think the shows have been excellent. The format's been great. This week it's a little bit different. This week we're going to look at, we said over the international break, what can we do? There's no Liverpool on, so what other way around it can we get? So the lads came up with the idea, a very good idea, of picking. Was it your idea, Phil?
It's probably mine.
No,
it was Andy's because it involves football. If it didn't involve football, it would have been mine. So
very much so. I thought it might have been yours around something else, and we just turned it into football. But the idea tonight basically is the lads have all sent in a team, which is going to be a Flair 11, and as the IKEA 11, as Phil calls them, they're just functional, not very sexy, not very attractive, but do the job to a very high level and high standard 11. The lads have all put their teams in, and we're just going to go through some of their selections. Now, for everyone in the comments, if you have any names that you want to throw at us here and any reasoning behind it, we'll try and get as many of them on the screen. We'll try and get a bit of chat. But this could, strap yourselves in, this could be a long one. Lads, the idea of doing these teams, did you find it difficult to come up with? We'll start with the Flairs. Phil, I'll start with you. Did you find it hard thinking of Flair players, or were the Flairs easier than the IKEAs?
Honestly, Keith, I have to say, I found it really hard because, football and sport for me is sort of drifting away as we're stuck in the easy turn and lockdowns, right? And it's very hard to watch sport without fans. And I think the Flair thing and the non-Flair thing really brings it home, because when you watch all these lads doing amazing things on the television, it's the reaction from the crowd. When somebody does something incredible and you just hear the gasp, it's an intake of air just as they do it, and people just go silent and go, how did that happen? Yeah. That to me is, and that really brings it down. And then when you have the functional lads, it's like they just do things that make everything that orchestrate and happen around them. And it's just such a shame, because I you looked at just every time you turn on television and you just want to see a crowd involved in the game. And I know it's mad, because I watch a lot of American sports in here in Boston and Chicago, and I find that when I look at the college games and you see that they have 25, 30,000 in some stadiums and not in other stadiums, it makes a huge difference to even the sense that's going on, the impact it has on the other teams and everything like that. So trying to pick Flair over function just sort of made me feel a bit sad that we're still stuck in a situation where we don't have fans in stadiums.
Yeah, it's true. It's certainly having an impact on the game as a spectacle, isn't it? But it's good to hark back at some of these players from our past. They're not too distant past in most cases, but a few thrown in. Pete, how did you find it? Did you, the same as Phil, that it sort of brought a tear to your eye thinking about the good old days?
Yeah, look, I mean, Phil and I grew up together, so looking back, things were always better. Yeah,
we exactly. did. We were neighbours, Grizz. Me and Pete go back to since we were 4 and 5 years old.
Big time. But for me, just I suppose, like Phil is saying, but things were better. Football was better. The way it was covered was better. I think, the way sport in general is saturated all over the box. I mean, literally, I don't know if anybody is old enough to remember, but sometimes you tune into Match of the Day as a 12, 13-year-old and you genuinely wouldn't know the scores. Everything is,
what a great shot.
Yeah, but you have to go a little bit deeper now to even to be entertained, to be honest with you. So when I was going through the Flair and non-Flair level,
Pete, I tune into matches today now and I'm like, who are they? I don't even know the teams. It's like, what are they doing in the top division?
And how did he end up there?
Yeovil Town will be up in the Premiership next.
Exactly. It's to be honest with you, everything is dime a dozen now. When I was filling out, particularly the Flair team, it was kind of you forget how magic some of these players were. A lot of fellas in the WhatsApp group are saying, "Geez, you picked him," and then you look at the numbers behind it. For example, one of my centre halves scored nearly 200 goals. You wouldn't see that today. So I think we're going to have a good time going through. But things were better yesterday than they are.
I think what smacked me, and I know Neil was meant to be on this, but he didn't meet the deadline for inclusion. But what smacked me was how we picked so many players, I'll say from the Champions League generation on. And I actually sort of thought about this, and I actually think it's genuine reason for why that's the case. And it's because football has been made more attacking based and attack minded based, right? And the way the laws of the games have changed has led us to a situation where we see a lot more attack based play than we would have said, say, in the 80s or the 70s or 80s, where Catenaccio football dominated in Italy, and you had these defensive, monstrous type teams itself. Nowadays, even the defensive teams have some element of attacking capabilities that sits there, right? So, like, I just think that there's a natural sort of desire to look at players that we see recently, and also we got to see an awful lot more of them. Like when we start talking about lads that I'm sure people will throw in names, it's very hard to compare, say, Franz Beckenbauer, because we only see the videos of what was recorded and what was played, as opposed to the other centre-backs that we're going to talk about, who we have see 24/7 football, constant coverage, every league game they play, no matter where they are in the world, plus Champions Leagues, plus internationals. So you get a real sense of what these players do in their ups and downs scales, whereas we don't see it with Beckenbauer. When you see Beckenbauer, you just see this immense, domineering centre-half who changed the way centre-halves played in the 70s for Germany. So it's like, and in the 60s. So it's like these things, I think people need to keep that in mind when we talk about. I'm absolutely all on for talking about old names, but in relative to the game is speeded up, and it's completely different to what it was in the 80s and the 70s even. So it's a very different game from the mid-90s on to where we are today.
It's a very good point. Grizz, are you in agreement with Phil there that it's, the game has changed, and that's why a lot of the players that we're going to look at are very recent? There's a lot of video footage. If I was picking a team in this, I'm not going to lie, mine would be a lot of grainy black and white shite that no one ever heard of. But I'm hosting, so
there's no way I'm going to disagree with Phil, because we'll be here all night. So I'll pass on to the next episode.
Very good point. Yeah, first time on Grizz, you've learned a lot. Already.
I tell you, I have, honestly.
Grizz, I think you've lost a bit of weight there, mate. You're looking great.
Correct. Next.
Yeah, congratulations on the award, mate.
Congratulations on the award.
Very important.
Nice one, Pete. Thank you, man.
Very important.
Thank you. Appreciate that. But now, listen. Generally, I agree with Phil. It is, of course, it's changed. Of course, it's difficult to compare. I found picking the Flair 11 very, very easy, as you do, because they're the players that stand out. They're the players in your memories. They're the big moments, the big players, the Flair players, the highlights. Everything's about Flair. But it's interesting when we come towards the end of the conversation and once we've selected and see, because I think, if I remember rightly, the aim of the game is sort of who would win. Yeah. And it's interesting to see how we compare the two teams and who we think would win, because I think we may have differing opinions. But let's get it started.
Let's get it on. Yeah.
Let's get it started, because the Bears are kicking off at 1:15 in the morning. I want to be on.
We'll get you in for the third quarter, don't worry. Right, lads, we'll start with the goalkeeper. Right now, we're going to look at the Flair goalies first, and there's a reason I have my Columbia top on tonight, and it's a protest about who you haven't picked in goal here. So we're going to look at the three keepers that were selected. So Phil, you went with Manuel Neuer, Grizz went for Campos, and Pete went for Brucey Gobler. Right, three very different goalkeepers. It's obvious who I think it should have been, but I'm not in this. But Phil, Manuel Neuer, and you're the next goalkeeper, and you have a great knowledge of goalkeepers from any pods I've done with you. I would be very interested on your take on this, right? So, Manuel Neuer is an excellent goalkeeper. Tell me why you think he's the Flair choice for you.
Well, for me, all the names you mentioned went through my head when I thought, who was the maddest sort of goalkeeper? So then I started, well, actually, mad goalkeeper against Flair goalkeeper, right? So if we talk about Flair, it's talking about watching something and you look at them and you go, How the fuck do they do that? They're changing the face of the game. They do something which completely reinvents how the game is played. They do something that you can't. When somebody mentions to you Manuel Neuer, you don't think of him as a goalkeeper who just wanted to dribble out from the back, right? But he does it. You think of this human wall that just basically can do everything, right? And also do the mad things. But when he stepped into midfield with the ball, when he did things that we hadn't seen before, where he was making tackles on his own halfway line, winning the ball. Next minute he's appearing in their half and playing balls into the pitch, and it's not a dead ball. It's ridiculous. It's madness when you step back. Now, I'm sort of, initially I would have gone, I have to say, I would have gone with Grizz's show for Campos, because anyone who's in a World Cup squad is about a forward and a goalkeeper has to be in the Flair show. Higuita, listen, I absolutely adored the fella, right? His backstory and all, but there's an element of the madness that fits with Higuita, that fits with Gobler, that fits with Barthez, that has this genius in madness, right? But when I'm talking about Flair as in the style of play. For me, so when I was picking my team, we were talking about Flair, I'm talking about the style of play and what they bring to the game and how they revolutionise how the game was played and how they revolutionise what we saw a player do. So when somebody says to you, Higuita, we immediately think scorpion kick.
Yeah.
Right. Or we think of him being dispossessed on the halfway line by Roger Miller, who was 406 years old, and then strolling the ball back in. Right. I'll let Grizz do Campos and I'll let Pete do Bruce Gobler. But they're all, for me anyway, Manuel Neuer. I was actually thinking Schmeichel. Because when I thought Schmeichel as well, he changes, the star jump, the way he approaches players. He changed how goalkeeping was done and brought this new sort of verve and flair. That ability to throw the ball the full length of the pitch that we hadn't seen, and the way he threw the ball as well. We hadn't seen that. It's like when we come on and talk about the forwards, it's because we hadn't seen them do these things before that blows my mind. I actually almost thought about putting Alisson into this as well.
Yeah.
And that's
ratio.
But that's very much recency bias. But I just absolutely adore.
But for much the same reason, isn't it? Because Alisson and Neuer can they can come out of their box, they can get the ball, they can nutmeg or flicker over the forward, and then they can hit 40, 50-yard pass onto the sixpence as well, So I suppose flair and eccentricity probably are two different things, but I'm still going with Higuita. Higuita. He done the scorpion kick, for God's sake. And I don't care if it was offside and it was mishit. He done a bleeding scorpion kick, and if you mistime that by a half a second, you land with your face on the ground looking like an absolute tit. So for me...
But Keith, the bit that people forget is that wasn't the first time he did the scorpion kick. Yeah. So that was the first time we all saw it in an international context, but he was doing this in the Colombian League on his own bat. So that was in his repertoire.
That's his thing. It's like Hugo Sanchez and the overhead kick. It was doing it every week. You just don't see it.
Yeah.
Grizz, I want to come to you next, right, with your choice. But just because it's more on the eccentric side and the Central American. You've gone with Campos, right? Jorge Campos. Why did you go for Campos? Why was he the one that jumped out to you?
So his goalkeeping jerseys jumped out straight away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Designed them himself, didn't he?
So that ticks a box. The fact that he had no right to be a goalkeeper in terms of size. He was like Gav's. I think he was shorter than Gav. But lighter than Paddy Wilson.
It's a myth.
No, he's about 4 foot and he weighed about 60 kg. What was he doing being a goalkeeper? Even though he's from Mexico, right? Which is a nation known for short people, right? Am I right? Comments probably tell me otherwise in the chat. Oh, is it Pete? Okay, I thought Mexicans on the whole, but
Rafa Marquez, 6 foot.
Oh yeah, there's you mentioned him. We'll probably get onto him.
We'll come on to him, yeah.
But look, Phil talks about flair and keepers changing the face of the game in terms of coming out and dribbling. This guy was the king. I mean, he was a clown almost, but effective clown. And the reason why, despite his physical deficiencies, was because of his flair that he stood out, and he managed to have a very decent career. It was pure instinct, pure flair, pure quirky, pure mad, what goalkeepers generally tend to be. I thought, looking back, I get what you say about Higuita, and I think possibly he could have been, I could have gone with Higuita. I'm not going to lie, because now that you guys have told me that he done scorpion kicks on a regular, that's insane. I mean, to sort of, no, but if he did that and he's never been injured or missed games as a result one he's fucked up, then that's amazing skill to have. He should be in one of our teams. I'd say Phil kicks out Neuer and puts him in his team, because Neuer is not really a Flair. Is he Flair? He's German, so that works against him.
That's why he's so different.
He's a magnificent keeper. I don't think he changed the way goalkeepers played. You know, Schmeichel was very active out of his box like that. Even Gobler was. Gobler played as a sweeper. You know, the very late, the late Ray Clements was an amazing sweeper keeper, you know, so he didn't revolutionize the way keepers play. I don't think there was much flair about, you know, Neuer, but that's his choice. I'm sticking with Campos. I thought fantastic. What a keeper for a Flair 11.
He was a great keeper. But he was more famous for his jerseys, which I suppose plays into the fact that he was a little bit, keepers are a bit mad, you know. No offense, Phil, but you're all a bit mad. Pete, another mad keeper, and one that's close to home for a lot of us. I mean, you're all older than me, but I remember Brucey well. Why do you have Brucey as your Flair keeper?
I'll tell you why. When the message was circulated around to discuss the best of Flair and the best of non-Flair, I thought, focus on the best. Bruce Gobler embodied Flair. You know, he embodies what teams are looking for in a modern keeper, with being a winner. This is a 6-time champion. This is a European champion. This is, I think he won 18 or 19 major honours with Liverpool Football Club. I think the fact that he was from Zimbabwe and wasn't an international of renown probably takes a little bit. But, you know, you got to think, it's a little bit like Phil with Neuer. Neuer has won pretty much everything in the game. It's a little bit cheat mode because he was with Bayern Munich in a less competitive league. That's a little bit controversial, I know. But Bruce Gobler, for me, I mean, people would still, I think, to be honest with you, people don't talk about Bruce Gobler, and let's call a spade in terms of being a legend anymore, because of the controversy towards the end of his career. He probably went on a little bit too long for us, and obviously he was involved in the match fixing scam, which we know ultimately, you know, there was a lot of ins and outs there. But I think if that hadn't happened, people would be arguably talking about Bruce Gobler as being one of the greatest goalkeepers to grace the English game. But that being, you know, I mean, Flair, I mean, it speaks for itself. He was a sweeper keeper, a very acrobatic man before it was even fashionable. I mean, in his day, you know, goalkeepers were 6'5", not very agile. If you were agile, it was kind of out the box. You know, he was coming out barking at defenders, coming out with the ball at his feet. You know, you could see he was itching to get involved in the play. By all accounts, he was involved in 5-a-sides further up the pitch. I think he just ticks all those boxes. But for me, bottom line, a serial winner. And I think if you're going to pick somebody, you know, anybody can have flair and do nothing with it. Anybody can be mad and do mad things. It's like people are talking about Higuita. Higuita is famous for getting caught, you know, by Roger Miller. Don't get me wrong, he did a couple of nice things.
I'd be as well.
Exactly. Yeah, the kidnapping part was also one of the mad things.
In South American goalkeepers, I'd be more in the Jose Chilavert court, to be honest with you.
Let me throw the hammer down on the Chilavert shout, right? The reason why everyone picks Jose Luis Chilavert is because he scored loads of free kicks and penalties, right? If you remove the free kicks and penalties from the way he played, it wasn't flary or spectacular anyway. He was the same. He was a David Seaman. He was rock solid as a goalkeeper. He did everything orthodox. He came for crosses. He caught crosses. He passed the ball.
Yeah, but you can't just suddenly take out a goalkeeper that scores stunning free kicks out of the equation. I mean, that's the reason why he's Chilavert. That's why we're talking about him.
But there's a few of them like that. Rodrigo Saini as well.
Rodrigo Saini scores more penalties and more free kicks in his career than Chilavert, but we don't call him a flair goalkeeper. Yeah. You know, it's Hans-Jörg Butt used to take all the penalties for Bayer Leverkusen and did it in the Champions League.
Penalty was different from penalty was different from a free kick from 25 yards out. You know, I don't know how many he scored. I don't know. Keith's got the stats or someone. How many did Chilavert actually score in his career? If it's about
stupid,
how many, Pete?
Something like 67 goals.
Free kicks.
Like could have been having
minus the penalties. I'll give Phil about the keepers that score penalties. That's fine. That we shouldn't count that as flair. But a goalkeeper that scores free kicks outside the box, come on.
Well, for me, Bruce Gobler, bottom
you
line.
made a brilliant case for Gobler. I'm happy to go with Gobler because what you said at the end. Because all of the keepers, but then Phil's going to say Neuer won things as well, whilst being a Flair keeper. So,
and if
I'll take
you
that Campos.
But Grizz, I'd also say, like, if we're talking about, if you bring Gobler into it, then you have to bring Barthez into it because they both play with a similar style. It's both eccentric. It was both, they played at the edge of where you can play, both on a mental and an ability point of view.
That's a fair shout as well.
Right, so there was as much in terms of because they didn't have the physical stature, say a Schmeichel or a Neuer has. They would use mental tricks to try put off strikers and do things like we talked about the wobbly legs. Think about when Barthez was trying to catch Henry out and he came up and put his hand out, was pretending it was just an offside, even though the game was continuing on. He basically stopped. But that's what I'm saying. This is, and that is Flair in a sense as well, because it changes how you look and see the game. The problem with Barthez is that he then became very error prone. If you look at the lads we're talking about, Higuita doesn't become error prone. He continues on winning Copa Soars and stuff like that in Colombia as part of it is. You look at Brucey. Brucey goes to Southampton and actually plays really, really well for Southampton as he closed out his career. That was there. And if you look at Manuel Neuer, he's still going and doing what he could. I'm honest now. There is so many goalkeepers that you can pick in terms of the Flair category, which were slightly different. Jorge Campos won a load of trophies, also played the MLS and was immense for Mexico, and also scored. When you were talking about scoring free kicks, Jorge Campos went up, played as a centre forward half a season, scored 20 goals.
A decent centre forward.
That's why I picked him.
I know. Yeah.
I don't know what Keith wants to go with the final word. I don't know. I'm happy to. If we're talking about successful at the same time as being flary, then Campos, obviously, I take out the equation. Then it's down to Gobler, Barthez, or Neuer.
I would say Neuer is. I sort of agree with Phil in the sense that eccentric and flair, right, are two different things. And while I was going for the eccentric with Higuita, there is a lot of those eccentric goalkeepers. You know, we can go with loads of them. Gobler was eccentric; he was good, but I think the comparison with Barthez is excellent. Actually, it is a very good parallel. But I just think Neuer, he's like an outfield player without having to score, free kicks at penalties, which Schiller done, which Saini done, which a lot of them done, but they didn't offer anything to the play really outside the box, whereas Neuer does. Look, lads, do you want to go for a consensus on this one, or will I overrule?
No, I'm happy to go with Neuer.
I'll be happy to go with Neuer as well. Just over Bruce.
And look, it's a close one, and there's pros and cons to a lot of days. Now, the reason I'm sort of pushing Neuer on you is when you think of a Flair team, you'll think of Brazilians, South Americans, Latin American players that have skills. And when you think of a functional team, and our selections are going to sort of go through this, you think very Germanic and very, the ruthless efficiency of Germans, Italian sort of thing. And
Not me.
Well, we'll see. Mm-hmm. But when you look at the not you actually. When you look at having a German keeper on the Flair team, it's not maybe where we expected. Without going, I've seen people thrown in, Tony Schumacher in there, but that's a bit of a bleeding push, isn't it, for the Flair keeper?
Butcher.
So we go with Manuel Neuer in that. Lads, I want to look at the other team. I don't want to go through all the Flair. I want to look now at the goalkeepers on the Porridgers. Phil has gone with a controversial choice. Who have you gone for, Phil?
On the functional level?
Yeah.
For the goalkeeper, Buffon.
Grizz.
I've gone for David Seaman.
You have. And P has gone for?
I've gone for Neville Southall. Better than both of those lads.
I have a massive issue with that, P. Because Neville Southall was one of the most extravagant goalkeepers to make saves. If you ever watch him back in his things, it's outrageous what he does. Outrageous the way he saves. His body shape. It's all about flair.
You make your case, I'll make my case.
Okay.
You make your case.
It's the beauty of this. We'll start with Pete then. We're here.
Come on,
Pete. Give us Neville Southall, big Nev.
Okay, this is a guy who embodies the idea. Talk about not extravagant, embodies the idea that anybody if they have the right mentality and the right level of determination, can make anything of themselves. This guy was a bartender. He was a hod carrier. He was a bin man. You know, made his way through the Welsh leagues, playing in front of 2 men and a dog. Literally, people talk about Jamie Vardy as if it's a miracle. Mate, Ian Wright and Neville Southall did this years ago when it was really, really difficult. And not just that, went to an Everton side. Okay, they weren't a bad Everton side, but they certainly weren't world beaters, and they weren't renowned for having top goalkeepers. Won 2 leagues, I think he won 2 or 3 leagues. Won a Cup Winners' Cup. Actually, as a goalkeeper back in the dark ages, when the word footballer and goalkeeper didn't go hand in hand, he won Footballer of the Year in 1985. I mean, this man dwarfs an awful lot of what big stars have done. And I hear what Phil's saying, but all goalkeepers have their character, have their moments, have their ways of trying. And Phil, as a goalkeeper, of trying to outcycle and outdo people. But for me, Neville Southall, talk about bread and butter. This man defines bread and butter. Didn't know where his next loaf of bread was coming from. For me, he walks into this team sideways with honours, considering his background and considering what he made out of himself. Top goalkeeper, best of all the ordinary guys for me.
Nope.
Phil?
Nope. Not having it. Neville Southall made easy saves look awkward and difficult, right? Neville Southall...
You don't win the league with easy saves looking awkward, mate. Not with Everton.
He couldn't win an FA.
Not having that.
He couldn't win an FA Cup being the amazing goalkeeper that he was when he had Liverpool in front of him. I'm telling you now, right? We're talking about the robots. We're talking about the fellas who are just walls, people who just stop things, right? Just do what you're expecting to do, but do it consistently over and over and over and over and over again, right? And there's some great shouts. Yashin and Desaev. Well, Yashin, I probably would have erred on the side of the Flair keeper in terms of the way he changed what goalkeeping looked like.
Someone put. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I forgot the name. Someone put Oblak of the recent ones, and that's a magnificent shout.
Yeah,
I totally slipped my mind. But yeah, fair play to whoever said Oblak.
Yeah, and to be fair, someone else has put Ray Clements in, and I'm actually thinking that we should just put Ray Clements into this side because of what he did. But again, it comes back to these ideas. Like, there's some ridiculous shouts. Paluca, like Southall, made things look awkward. Paul Robinson, absolute dirt as a goalkeeper, absolute dirt. Stuck in the shite, and the fella made things look so much more difficult.
Paluca or Robinson never won anything.
Yeah,
never won anything.
I honestly
won anything.
I picked Buffon. I picked Buffon.
Buffon's a decent show. In fairness, Buffon's a decent show.
For the simple reason that Buffon's style of play is, if you were to textbook what a goalkeeper does, right, and then play the video, you'll be able to show a Buffon match over and over and over again, because here's how you come for a cross. This is your positioning for this shot. This is how you go down and dive for a shot. This is how you catch the ball. This is how you kick the ball. Here's how you organize your defense. This is where you stand when the defense moves up this way. This is where you stand when the defense comes back in. Like, he is textbook for what goalkeeping should be. And when we're talking about a robot, that means he's a robot. That means he follows the line as to what you want a goalkeeper to be. It's defining how you expect to have standards set up for everyone around him. And that, for me, is why...
Can't argue with
that. That segues into my choice. I echo everything Phil says, except I put forward David Seaman, who was before him, just epitomized boring. You know, when you guys put IKEA in the WhatsApp, right? I read somewhere IKEA. David Seaman, if he wasn't a keeper, would be a general manager at IKEA. We all agree. So I think David Seaman is the ultimate boring, never to be seen, never to be heard. Buffon is a brilliant shout, but Buffon is Italian, passionate. You know, something about him doesn't go into a boring 11, if you know what I mean. He's so emotional with his hands, and, you know, you can see the passion in him. You don't see that with David Seaman. There's no expressions. There's nothing. He'll make save after save, just behind the ultimate back four of that famous Arsenal one. 1-0 to the Arsenal. Big hands, David Seaman. That's my shout. Yeah, that's it. We haven't decided the keepers yet. Fuck, I'm looking at the time.
A lot of people are talking about German keepers, which you would, because they're all very functional. But we're talking about the best of the best, the greatest version. And the reason why you were talking, when you're talking about moving hands and emotional, the one thing about Buffon is that emotion comes out at the end of games. In a game, he's just the Iceman. And Seaman, I can actually get on board the Seaman shout as well. Seaman was the Iceman. Literally the Iceman when it came to playing a goal. He should have played in the 1990 World Cup, and if he did, England probably would have won the World Cup in 1990. Like that's what we're talking about. These goalkeepers, though. I'll go back to it. These goalkeepers, if you take them out of a box today and play the video for a kid who's coming up, they do everything you want the kid to do. They tended the goal the way you want them to do it. Whereas the lads in the Flair teams did something that you can't do. You see it and then you try to replicate it. Whereas these lads, is if you write down how to goalkeep, that's the one it is. Don't give me Zubi Zaretta. Don't give me Zubi Zaretta. Zubi Zaretta.
Put that there for you.
Zubi Zaretta. Don't get me Zubi. I do a whole podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's another tough one for Keith to decide.
Yeah.
Look, do you know what? I hear what you're saying about Buffon, but I think Buffon's character is too eccentric to be.
That's what I said.
To be the functional. No, ability wise, I hear what you're saying. Technically, he's a very functional goalkeeper, but Seaman's a good shout. You know, I'm over the Ulnias all on this, and I'm putting Ray Clements in just out of a sympathy vote. I'm not going
to argue with that, but I will say about Phil's shout, in fairness, you don't get 22 years out of the game at a consistently high level, which is the highest level. You know, I mean, I think he's only really been not first choice this year. In fairness, you don't get that by being, you know, just okay. In fairness to him, Buffon's a great shout.
There's been some excellent goalkeepers, and like Emma Kavanagh, I know we've touched on Reinhard Dessayef, but like we spoke about him on World Cup shows as well before, lads. And Reinhard Dessayef, for anyone that doesn't know, as Emmett's saying there, was like an android. It was like Ivan Drago, but in football. You know what I mean? He was like an emotionless sort of soul that's plucked balls out of every blade and orifice of the goal.
So 40 minutes in, we've managed to pick 2 goalkeepers.
Excellent. But don't worry, lads. We're not going to do this one by one. We're going to look at the defenders as a whole now. We're going to move on to the defence, right? So, I can tell you, right, in the defence, you've all put your teams in. We'll go through the Flairs. You've all agreed on one player. The 3 of you have one player that you've all picked, right? Cafu.
Yeah.
Oh,
I have huge issues with this one, right?
Okay.
You've all gone with Cafu.
Well, you overruled, so there's no point having a discussion. I think one of us just talks about Cafu because you overruled it, Keith.
I'll briefly talk about Cafu. I didn't think Cafu was in any way a Flair player. I thought he was functional of anything else. He was up and down the line getting his crosses in. I thought there was zero Flair with Cafu. I think Dani Alves is twice the Flair option at right back than Cafu, in my opinion, my humble opinion. But you've all gone with Cafu. I think Cafu is more functional than Flair, personally. You don't play in that 18-man team if you're a defender.
What do you know about me, Keith? What do you know about me? I'm a very fair man.
You are a very fair man.
I'm a very fair man. Even though the 3 masterminds picked Cafu, I'm holding my hands up and saying, you're right. I'm very happy to go with Dani Alves. I can't believe one of us didn't pick Dani Alves. That's me. The rest of you
is too, but you're talking about the best though. This is Dani Alves is so bad defensively.
You can't say that. Pete, we just talked about Neville Southall and Dani Alves won the most trophies in the world.
AC Milan.
He's got more trophies than me in my cabinet, and that's saying something. Dani Alves, no.
But AC Milan
equal success. Dani Alves wins it hands down.
AC Milan were not a Flair team. There was no Flair in that AC Milan midfield. Never mind that defence.
Every single one of those Barca players in that Pep team is a Flair player.
He used to play in the bleeding right wing, you know. But you all went for Cafu. I think we can skip that. In. The left back is interesting now, lads, because let me see. Phil, who have you gone with a left back?
Don't you want to do the right wing of functional? Right back.
We're just going to have a quick look at the players. We're going to do the defence.
Keith, the problem I had to submit my team and then realised I actually didn't want full backs in this at all. Right, I would have rather picked three centre backs and throw a couple of more lads into midfield.
You could have done that. Yeah, you could have done that.
And that to me is ulti Flair. Like we don't need.
You say that.
1950s tactics.
It's a left backs now. But now we're talking on left backs, right? Phil, you went for Marcelo.
Yeah.
Grizz, you went for Marcelo.
For the very same reason as Dani Alves.
Peter, you went for
everything.
I went for Roberto Carlos, the man who defined Flair in a left full back.
Now,
defined it. Pace to bone, technique to bone, goals to bone. I hate Real Madrid. It kills me to add this man, but anybody that can see beyond Roberto Carlos as the Flair, the definition. I mean, this is a guy who redefined how to strike a dead ball as a left full back.
Didn't though? He scored one free kick ever.
How far? That's rubbish.
If you look at the Brazilian left backs have been redefining how to take free kicks since the 1950s. I think if you look at Nelinho or the likes in the 70s and 80s, Nelinho was hitting the banana kick back when, you know, the balls were like medicine balls and he was bending them around walls left, right and centre. Oh, you hear what you're saying about Roberto Carlos. Marcelo is a Flair player. Grizz, I'll give you a chance on Marcelo.
I agree with Pete. Roberto Carlos was magnificent, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was
magnificent. He was magnificent. People only talk about that free kick, but as Pete says, he was a brilliant fullback. Trying to beat Roberto Carlos one-on-one is near enough impossible. One-on-one, he was an absolute pit bull, quick as anything. Why I went for Marcelo was his intricate dribbling as a fullback and his passing ability out of pressure. For a fullback. Now that's the reason why I went for Marcelo. Pete makes a very good case for Roberto. I'm hoping Phil sort of cements the vote with Marcelo for his reasoning why he picked Marcelo.
Phil,
for me, a left back that does more step overs than Messi means that there's no other winner for me. Right? Marcelo does more step overs than Messi ever did.
He's a skill back, to be fair.
And Owen Burke that is right there. I actually thought of Lizarazu as well, just because one of my favourite things in Après match was when you said Lizarazu.
One of my favourite players as well, Lizarazu. Yeah,
Lizarazu. Like honestly, like there's you could look at things like that, but for me, a player that has done more step overs in his career than Messi as a fullback means for me that there's no contest here. Like Roberto Carlos was massive toys and would pound the sort of left hand side of the pitch up and down like a racehorse, right? Whereas Marcelo graces it like a ballerina. There's hang on.
You're talking about Roberto Carlos as if he's Stuart Pearce here. Have a read of what Emma Cabinet is saying, Phil, on the bottom of the screen. I mean, this should be enough. Carlos scores an impossible. I remember this goal, an impossible angle goal from the near corner. By the way, it was on the volley, first time. As if a centre forward tried this and didn't come off, you'd be hammering him for. This is a left full back with the outside of his left foot.
Every game, Roberto Carlos used to take a 65-yard run up to kick a free kick over the Bernabeu. Sorry, not having it. SALAH, Marcelo, every single day of the week. That's who I'm going with, and I'm with Grizz. This is wrapped up. Let's move on.
Yeah, Marcelo is wrapped up. It's a wrap. No offense, Phil, Pete. You couldn't get Carlos in there. No matter how many bleeding goals.
Unbelievable.
There's going to be some unbelievable. There's going to be some decisions.
The people agree with me. You are just bullying the people.
No. I'm not allowing bullying. I'm not allowing bullying.
None of that in this house.
I am.
Oh, you are. You will. Yeah, no doubt.
Marcelo has better hair.
Winston Bogart.
We will move on, lads, to the centre backs because you've all given me different centre backs, right? So, Phil, you went for
the only one I'm sticking with, and you can fucking come over to Dublin and beat me up if you want. But seriously, Virgil van Dijk is the most amazingly flary centre back I've ever seen in my life. The fella does things that no centre back has ever done before. The way he can is just stupid. He's on a stupidly different level to every other centre back that's played the game in the last 20 years. And I don't care what anyone says. He doesn't even exist in the same plane as anyone.
I think you should go for two. I think you should name both of your centre backs that you name. Then it becomes probably quicker and easier.
I can't remember who the second one was.
He's not going in on principle. He's not going in on principle. He has about 100 End of story.
For the same reason that you all wanted to pick goalkeepers who scored goals, I'm sticking Sergio Ramos in for scoring 1 billion goals, and also
for just leading penalties.
Really bad ones. Like that's Flair. That's Flair. And that's Flair. For me, Ramos, when we talked about Flair, he plays as a centre back with a lot of flair, but he's also a dirty bastard, right? And he adds the dirty bastard part of his game with a lot of flair. Like, think of the way he fouled Salah in the Champions League final. Yeah. That was actually poetic in the methodology, so that you couldn't get booked or anything like that. It's genius. But like, I'm not going to push the Ramos thing. But for me, I just want to get Van Dijk in. I think Van Dijk is the best of all the Dutch centre-backs. We're talking about Koeman and all that type of stuff. Van Dijk can do everything every single centre-back has ever done, ever.
So you're championing Van Dijk out of your two, right? Grizz, I'll come to you next, because I know Pete's going to want to really dig into his here. Grizz, you've gone for an outrageous one and a good one. So who have you gone for?
So I've gone for Lucian. Who's the other one I've gone for?
Marquez.
I think Rafael Marquez was Flair epitomized. Absolute beautiful pass of the ball.
Handsome pass.
Elegant. Didn't deserve to be a defender. Shouldn't be a defender. Didn't like getting dirty. Usually didn't end up getting dirty. He's played until he's nearly 40, I think, or he's still playing, I think. The other one, I will fight tooth and nail to keep in the team, regardless of what anyone says. You can come over to London and beat me up if you want. Lucio was my favorite centre-back, one of my favorite centre-backs of all time. A magnificent centre-back who had flair. The ultimate Brazilian centre-back was Lucio. I mean, the guy had everything.
In fairness, in those runs that Leverkusen made, I think the 2 Champions League finals, he was arguably their best player. In fairness,
he was playing in the era where you had Zidane, Ronaldinho's on the world best attackers, and he reached the final with Leverkusen and done well in the Bundesliga, and he won the World Cup, I think, with Brazil as well. Magnificent
player.
So underrated. Lucio is my hot take. Out of all the shouts in the whole session, Lucio is my hot take. So, please.
So you're championing Lucio.
Yeah.
I
can accept Marquez being shifted out.
I know, look, Marquez is a good player, but the Pete's choices. Now, Pete, who have you gone for?
I've gone for Paul McGrath because he's walked on water pretty much. One player, if there's ever one player I would have loved to have played for Liverpool, could do everything. And the reason I put him in the Flair team is because he could pretty much do everything. And if anybody knows anything about him, he wasn't in the best of shape psychologically, or even with his habits, while he was marking some of the best centre forwards who ever walked and lived out of games of football. And he nicked the odd goal, to be honest, just strolling through games. God knows what he would have been like if he had had 2 knees. The man was a miracle. And I've gone for Ronald Koeman by virtue of the fact that he scored almost 200 goals for Barcelona. In his career. And somebody questioned yesterday what it was a Flair choice. They weren't all free kicks, penalties. I mean, if anybody wants to have a look on YouTube at some of his movement, some of us coming out of the back of the ball and deciding that I'm just going to beat 3 and 4 players, knock it over people he was a one-man offside trap beater as a sweeper. I mean, it's unheard of. He's just at every level he played, he delivered.
Keith, sorry, Pete,
I'm with Phil.
Pete, can I just jump in for a second? Can I just, lads that are coming in with the comments, picking Italian defenders like Nesta and Cannavaro and Scorea and Hampton and Hendry, they aren't Flair. They're brilliant. This is not about the best that ever was, right? Where you can have a different conversation around this. This is about the most amazingly beautiful to watch. And that's the best way for me to describe Flair. Flair is that
fair enough.
The most amazing, beautiful players to watch in terms of what they do and how they play the game. I can sort of buy into Pete's Paul McGrath show, but the problem is I still think Van Dijk is a better version than Paul McGrath. And I had Desailly as one of my shouts in at one stage because he was immense as a centre-back. But again, he's a converted midfielder who dropped back in. And then I look at Van Dijk and go, well, he did everything that Desailly does, and probably he does it better than Desailly as well.
I wouldn't have Desailly in there. Yeah.
So then when I come down to it, like Lucio is a fantastic shout. I also thought of Aldair when he played for Roma. He was phenomenal Brazilian centre back, and you're really stuck with these teams. You're looking at the South American teams. I was trying to think of some of the Argentinian South American teams as well that I've watched over the years that played there.
They wouldn't really be in Flair, wouldn't they? Not the Argentinians were much more cynical and clinical, I think, at the back than
Passarella. But Passarella is probably the exception. I mean, he scored about 180 goals.
Passarella scored a lot of goals. Yeah, he did score a lot of goals. But
they talked about
would Gracie come under Flair, lads? If you're talking about lovely to watch and graceful, and the way Bobby Moore, we forgot about Bobby Moore.
Bobby Moore. It's hard for the centre. Beckenbauer is running through pitches left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
There's Matthias Sammer as well, but Matthias Sammer was more of a midfielder.
Do you know what? It's like talking about Ruud Gullit when he decided to play centre half at Chelsea. I mean, it was just amazing to watch. As much as I hate Chelsea with a passion, that's Flair. That's
people are shouting
different level.
People are saying Lothar Matthäus, but again, that's a midfielder who drops back in and plays as a sweeper.
Exactly, like Ruud.
Fernando Hierro is a great shout, by the way.
Yeah,
Fernando Hierro was a fantastic role.
I'm happy to go with Lucio and Van Dijk.
Yeah, I think Lucio. I don't think you're going to get a more attractive centre half partnership to watch than Lucio and Van Dijk. And Van Dijk could cover the fact that Lucio was just a joint block outside of that.
So hang on, just to be clear, you're going with Lucio over both Paul McGrath and Ronald Koeman. Are we clear?
Yeah.
And you wish to remain credible.
Koeman have to live with that decision. They have to live with their choices.
Absolutely.
Koeman definitely. McGrath, I can't argue against. I can only argue for Lucio and Van Dijk. I can't argue against McGrath. That's the political way out.
Who was the fella that with the big curly mop ahead that played for Portugal? He was the only
Fernando Couto, but John Hodges counted him off too many times for him to be, and he looks good. But
he looked flirty, but I think he was shy. Really, I think if you shaved him down, he was just a bleeding. Yeah, I think
he was.
Massive hair though.
One of the lads in the comment earlier on made a comment about Matthias Sammer. I think if Sammer hadn't have retired early through injury, it would have been a decent, because he was different level, that guy. But unfortunately, his injuries got the better of him, so we'll never.
Rajiv, I need to know your age before I answer this. I really need to know how old you are before I reply. Bye. Yeah. Sorry, go.
And also, Frank Rijkaard gets thrown in there, but Frank Rijkaard was a midfielder who dropped back in and played centre back. So
they hard one, isn't it? Nobody's mentioned Mamadou Sakho, and I think he's been the flirtiest of them. Unless he's saving up for the functional 11, I don't know.
He struggled with that ankle injury.
He did. All the paint fume from painting houses got to him in the end. Lads, on to the porridgers now for the defence, right? So, Phil, you've gone with... It could be. I'm going to fly through these, right? So you've gone with your defenders. I'm going to list the four that you've gone with. Yeah. You've gone with Lam, Zanetti, Chiellini, Maldini. Mm-hmm. Okay. Grizz has gone with Lam, Brahma, Stam, and Carragher. We all know where you went for that one. Mm-hmm. And Peter has gone for Zanetti, Maldini, Chiellini, and Puyol. So we can see there's a few names there that are crossing over several teams, right? So we've got Philip Lam has gone in two teams.
We all agree, I think. Yeah.
Well,
he's two of them or three of them.
He's the ultimate German. He's the ultimate German footballer, right?
Yep.
It's basically, again, I'll go back to look up fullback and they'll show a picture of Philip Lam, because that's what you do as a fullback, right? It's a brilliant player, but brilliantly perfect.
Now the interesting thing is I'm only going on to that. So the interesting thing is Phil has him in there at left back. Grizz has him as right back. P. Which one of your fullbacks are you willing to sacrifice for Philip Lam?
Not Maldini. Paolo Maldini is the greatest fullback.
Our centre back
ever.
Yeah.
Or left back.
Nobody better.
I was going to drop Maldini out of this.
I'm sorry. Can we just? I just want.
I'm happy.
Hang on. Just ever. There's nobody better than Paolo Maldini ever.
No, I'm a massive, huge fan. I think I can take away my left back, who was Bremer,
and good show.
And Philip Lam at right back. You won't get two more functional fullbacks, I thought, in Bremer and Lam. Just invented a new name there. I think Phil's going to have to kick out his left back because he's got. No, how can you kick out Philip Lam? No, but you can agree that we can switch him to right back.
Yeah.
Philip Lam, and that way we can bring in Maldini. I'm very happy with.
There's
Maldini.
no one is.
I argued for Zanetti, in fairness, so I would have kicked Maldini.
Yeah. I love Zanetti. Longevity again.
The thing is, Zanetti. Zanetti comes into my thinking in midfield as well. He's your ultimate terminator in midfield. You're talking about right side midfield, right winger, possibly even DM if Jose Mourinho's the manager. Do you know what I mean? And he's a robot. You cannot. Why are we going on to Zanetti? But you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm happy with Lam and Maldini as my fullbacks.
But if we played Maldini and we have Lamb, and who else do we have in the functional back four?
We haven't picked the 2 centre halves yet.
Right,
but if you
have Maldini and you have Lamb, potentially you just need 1 centre back, and you can play 3 at the back, right, and start lining up.
I'm not changing this formation.
We're not going to change it now.
Yeah, see, Phil has Maldini in as a centre back, don't you, Phil?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, because he was one of the best centre backs of all time.
Yeah,
he plays where he wants to play.
Like he's the best defender of all time.
I'm happy to kick out. I'm happy to kick my
political shout. For a minute. Yeah, your centre backs, Grizz. I'm saying it now. Your centre backs are about getting kicked out. They're not.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. I mean, Stam is RoboCop. So how you can keep RoboCop?
Good players. I'll give you that. Granted, Stam is an excellent player. AC Milan stalwart. Had a spell at United. Carragher's the political shout. Where none of us are happy with that nonsense because you thought this was going for public vote.
No problem. Yes, I did.
He went in there. Right?
I love Jamie, but no.
Yes,
even Jamie wouldn't put himself in.
Sorry, Jamie. But if there's any consolation, I invite you onto Carnage. Anyway, yeah.
Can you be convinced on Chiellini as a centre back in a no-nonsense defence? Because the boys both have Chiellini.
Who?
Chiellini, I can't. If they've both got Chiellini, I wouldn't go against that because I think Chiellini will go down as the Nestas in the Cannavaros in those names when we talk about the greatest defenders when he stops playing. That's how highly I rate him. Functional, yeah. Boring, standard. Will give, yeah. I'm happy with Chiellini.
I'm gonna kick Puyol out of your team as well, Peter. Right?
Really?
And a great show. But I'm overruling here, right? So Philip Lamb's going in a left back. I think we all agreed on that. Maldini.
No. Oh, okay. Maldini's staying in centre half.
He's going in a centre half, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness.
And Chiellini are going in a centre half. Now, we don't care about balance because it's makey up at the end of the day. 2 left footers in there. Chiellini and Zanetti is going in at right back. Now, I don't think you can have a team of functional players without having the most functional of functional players and Javier Zanetti. So I'm overruling you on that one. So FC Porridge is going with Zanetti, Lam, Maldini, and Chiellini at the back.
that is square. It's like
good luck.
The king of functionality. Thank you. I'm out of here. Good night. I can't do any better than that.
Now, they're going to need it. They're going to need it when we go to
just a quick reminder, what was the Flair 11 back four we ended up with?
Flair back four. So we've got Neuer as in goal. We've got Cafu, Marcelo, Lucio, and Van Dijk. Right? We've gone with Lucio and Van Dijk in there. We've gone with Clemens, Zanetti, Lam, Maldini, and Chiellini.
That is the most rock solid back five you're ever going to get.
Ever.
Think about those lads. Like if you see that on a team sheet, you're going, yeah, we're not scoring against this. We're going to have to try.
We'll wait. Hold fire.
Now we're going to move into the midfield, boys. We're going to move into the midfield, and one player has come up on all 3 teams in the Flares.
Oh, that's good.
Who is it?
Zidane must be.
Zinedine Zidane, of course. So you've all gone for Zidane.
Yeah.
The man.
We don't need to speak about him.
No, the man is just was art, was poetry.
Yeah,
was a vision on a football pitch.
Ballet.
Yeah.
So we've all put him in midfield, right?
You've all put him in. Yep, 3 of you have him in the midfield. Can't argue with it. It's really he's an artist. He's one of the greatest players, in my opinion, of all time. It would be silly not to have him in there. Argument that he could have been in the functional team as well because he was technically the most fucking amazing player you'll ever see. But we'll come back to that. They are at 2 positions, so we're going with a 3 in midfield. Now, Phil, who's the other 2 you went for?
He can't remember. Just help him. I know he can't remember.
I went for...
You went for the same as Grizz, I'll just tell you that now.
I know, yeah, but I went for them forcing that he just copied me. What was...
No.
Who did I go with?
Redondo.
Phil. Actually, Redondo, and I will argue the Redondo team because it's very hard to pick a defensive midfielder in a Flair team, right? So, like, think about how many defensive midfielders, and I thought about Pirlo, I thought about all these type ads, right? But Redondo, in the same way that Zidane played like a ballerina, Redondo played the defensive midfield role as a ballerina, right? So, and if anybody watches him in the mid-90s, before he gets wrecked by that knee injury, right, he destroyed Man United. The defensive midfielder destroyed Man United at the peak of their power in Old Trafford without even lifting his head, right? Like he was doing...
we picked the same player, so it's not about copy. Because Keith, you're my witness that I mentioned Redondo in our ultimate player. Yeah. So that's how highly I rate Redondo. So I think Redondo and Laudrup's the other one I went for.
And that was Michael Laudrup was my other shout. When
you're talking about dribbling and beautiful to watch as a dribbler. I mean, Messi's a magnificent dribbler. We know that, but he's like a little rat, isn't he? Yeah. Michael Laudrup was just poetry dribbling. I mean, effortless, 6 foot plus. No right to be a dribbler, or you think of him as a sort of a maestro strolling around the pitch. The guy could dribble at high speed, vision, eyes at the back of his head. Michael Laudrup.
So when I was thinking about midfielders and Flair midfielders, Keith, right, the lads that were also popping into head, Kaká, Rui Costa doesn't get much love these days, but it was immense in the 90s, right? You have I've seen somebody mentions Vani Boban. That was amazing, right? So there's people saying Pavel Nedved, but he should be in the functional 11. I'm actually annoyed. I'm annoyed I didn't have him in there, right?
Yeah, very good.
But Luis Figo. But all of them, when you just stack Michael Laudrup up against them, he did everything that they did and had the vision. At one stage, I even was considering Tony Cruz in this. But then I was thinking that he's more functional than he is Flair, right? But like Laudrup had the flair. Everything that Messi does today, Laudrup did, but didn't have the same goals output, right? And Riquelme, I'd love that show. I love like all these Xavi. I think Xavi.
Yeah, we've got to miss out on some. Yeah, great shouts.
Yeah. So, and Zico and Socrates, amazing, but they wouldn't be able to play at the pace the game is played these days. They were amazing in their time, but there's a part of me that also says how many of these players could transcend generations. And for me, Laudrup transcends the generation. He plays in this generation. Gaza is a great shout as well. These were players that I considered, but for me, if you have the most amazing midfield of Laudrup and Zidane with Redondo backing it up as the flary defensive midfielder, I couldn't get around it. I was thinking of just dropping the defensive midfielder altogether and going for ultimate Flair, but when I could find a flary midfielder, I was like, we're gonna have to take on this functional side. You're gonna need something there.
Yeah, okay. Now I'm gonna give Pete a chance to give his other two midfielders. Peter, who have you gone with?
I went with Figo. Phil gave him an honourable mention. I just think he can do so much, but my pièce de résistance. Well, obviously I went with Zidane as well, but I went with Ruud Gullit because you can talk for an hour about what players can do, but you talk for maybe 15 seconds about what Ruud Gullit couldn't do. So any Flair or any kind of midfield without Ruud Gullit in it, for me, I mean the guy again, 6'5", leader, captain, brilliant in the air, brilliant feet, brilliant skill, could skin a player at his peak. Could play centre forward if you needed him to, could play centre half. Arguably one of the most complete midfield players of all time. I mean, whatever you've got, Ruud Gullit's got more of, to be honest with you. And he was just shit cool as well. So he walks into my team right in the middle of it, as captain, pulling the strings, to be honest.
He's not getting the captaincy. There's only one person getting the captaincy in the player level. One person.
Well, but anyone want to counter Ruud Gullit there?
I would actually almost be prepared to sacrifice Redondo and put Ruud Gullit into the team with Laudrup and Zidane.
It's funny you should say that because that's what I'm after doing.
Wow.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a
huge Redondo fan. I'm a huge Redondo fan, but I just
me too.
He makes a good.
I'm a huge Gullit fan. Gullit fan, but I can't see him. I wouldn't waste his talent and ability as a holding player in the Flair 11.
Depends, Grizz, on which. I mean, the great thing about Ruud Gullit, it depends on which Ruud Gullit you're talking about. If it's young Ruud Gullit, he's high up the pitch causing mayhem. If it's middle, Euro 1988 Ruud Gullit, he's in the middle of the park making things happen. If it's Ruud Gullit 30 plus, he's at the back calling the shots. The guy just had everything. When Ruud Gullit's on television talking about football, everybody listens. Fair enough. I mean, it's because he knows everything about the game because he did everything in the game.
I think he's an absolute shit pundit. Absolute shit pundit. Yeah, no, he's awful. He talks fucking crap. Mute him. Every time he speaks, I mute him.
The problem with Gullit is he can't get over himself. The reason you don't like him as a pundit is the reason he wasn't successful as a manager. Ruud Gullit walks into a football.
Yeah, fair enough.
typically, and looks around him, and he can't understand why people aren't as talented as he was. And he doesn't relate well. So Terry Phelan actually tells the story, says he just used to walk around Chelsea and pretend Terry Phelan wasn't there. He wouldn't acknowledge him because his mentality was, you don't exist for me. You don't exist. You know,
no, I'm very happy to be overruled in terms of putting him in the team. I go for it.
I'm so annoyed I forgot about one Flair centre back, but come on anyway.
He was a throw him out there just for don't keep the listeners guessing.
Yeah.
Philippe Albert.
Oh yeah, a sweeper just for that.
Yeah, but just a mention though. But he's not. He doesn't get into the all-time 11. But absolute Flair.
An honourable mention.
Honourable mention.
You must be getting the curly finger there again.
Yeah, no. His missus there must be giving out steaks. I'm going.
As it is, lads. As it is, right. So what we're going to go with there, because I know we'll be here till tomorrow. I'm going to go with Zidane. Obviously, the 3 has went for. I think you've made an excellent argument for Michael Laudrup. And I'm assuming it was Michael. It wasn't Brian we were talking about. No, Michael.
Kev O'Sullivan said he could only play in the 4, not in the 3. I disagree with Zidane and Hull alongside them. I'm going with the 3 lads there.
And you have to remember,
this is a Flair 11. We're going to play Flair. Yeah,
they're playing against the Bladen.
Watch out for the midfield in the functional 11. Fucking yeah.
No, you need as much Flair as you can.
Jesus,
get. We're gonna go with Gullet. We're gonna go with Laudrup, and we're gonna go with Zidane. I think that's fair, balanced, attacking, flirty midfield, and it gives Pete a show because he's getting overruled on everything else, and he's probably getting his ear chewed off there.
Interestingly, Neilo was going to pick Valderrama, which I don't necessarily disagree. If you were going to discuss the merits between Valderrama and Hull, just as a show in general.
Valderrama is an excellent shout as well, as that type of player. There's so many you can throw in, like Zico is a great shout for that. There's so many you can put in there, but I think Hulla is an iconic player as well for so many people, you know, and for people of a certain age and all their age. You know, we've spoke about World Cup shows we've done before, and I know Pete and Phil would have been primo. Euro 88 would have been sort of, you would have been well in that, and Grizz as an older gentleman would have been well up to speed on that as well. So Hullet was an icon for so many, so we'll go with that. Pete, you've got Hullet in the team. Figo can fuck off, but you've got Hullet in. We'll do the functioners now, right?
Is there any we agreed on?
Yeah, you've all agreed on Zidane. We've got Laudrup.
No, in the function.
The other ones, right? So Phil, who'll be going with?
I was struggling. I hate functional midfielders, but I went with Albertini, Makelele, and Tony Cruz because I was starting to run out of the will to live when I was picking the midfield for the functional 11. So I was trying to pick lads who had class, but were incredibly functional.
Yeah, you all picked 3 different midfielders for this.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for you to decide.
Yeah, it may be. So Phil has gone with Makelele, Albertini, and Cruz. I hate Claude Makelele, so he can fuck right off.
Oh, fucking hell, okay.
That's a bit hard.
No, I just think he gets too much. I think he gets overblown, sort of his influence on football in general. I think he's an excellent player. I think he's an excellent player. He was a great cog for the Galacticos at Real Madrid, but that's because they were all bleeding a team of Muppets that wouldn't do the work, and they just needed
Lucas. What a show, Lucas,
there, your mate. There you go. But Grizzly, you went for who?
I went for Deschamps, Dunga, and Lothar Matthäus.
Your team are playing on the bleeding 18-yard line.
Well, this is it, but this is what they do. Dunga, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to see how you're going to kick any of those out based on the criteria that we were given at the start of the week to pick a functional, IKEA, boring, dull 11, but brilliant at the same time because they have to win this game. So Dunga, basically played on his own in the front 6. Like he was the only player, that sat back. What a job he had to do.
Dunga did not play on his own. Dunga always had players beside him. Always had him. Yeah,
that's the beauty of him. That's absolutely the beauty of him. Deschamps, the word water carrier was invented for this fella.
Yeah.
Name a talent that he had. I mean, I couldn't. He probably awful in the rondos. Yeah, exactly. You can't even imagine him just going around kicking people, probably. And then you've got who's the other fella? Lothar Matthäus. I think out of my 3, I won't remove Lothar Matthäus from that team because Lothar Matthäus is your ultimate German functional system player.
Yeah, lucky, Grizz. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to be overruled on the other two because
Just
give
as
and
well.
take.
I think
Really?
I think Pete has one really valid show here, and I sort of steered away from it because of my nationality. But go on, Pete.
Pete, give me that 3.
In the functional 11.
Roy Keane. Sorry, for the midfielders or for the strikers?
Midfielders, yeah, not a
midfielder. Roy Keane, Edgar Davids, and Xavi Hernandez.
Right. Let's talk about Roy Keane.
I think Roy Keane is the most valid of your 3 to go into the ultimate functional midfield, and he will give you an attacking threat as well as the defensive style. Like he was just a robot. When we talk about pure robots, the fella just went end to end all day long. Like 1 minute he'd be in the box scoring headers against Juventus, next minute he's clearing it off the line in the same match against Juventus. So I'm willing to concede one of my midfielders to put Roy Keane in.
I just think with Roy, Phil, I think you're right. I mean, I always hark back to match of the day. If Roy Keane wasn't playing, you were happy against you, as a Liverpool supporter, or if you're hoping Manchester United were dropping points. He was just everywhere. And, somebody makes the point that Roy Keane wasn't functional. He was the most functional Premier League player there's ever been.
Yeah.
And functional for me is filling the gaps that, where other players fail. Passing the ball. Football is about, as you know, in that position, 10 out of, like Xavi Hernandez put him in. If you make 90 passes in a game, you want to make sure 89 of them find feet. And that's the functionality of football. For me, that's what Roy Keane
I'm absolutely happy to go with Phil and Pete's choice about Roy Keane. I think Roy Keane alongside Mateus so far is fucking dangerous. It's lethal. Lads, that's lethal.
Do you know I'm actually disappointed, lads? This is the functional level, and we picked a 4-3-3. It should have been a 4-4-2. If ever you're going to go with functional formation, 4-5. But I'll even go 4-4-2 because it's Roy Hodgson. Roy Hodgson has to be the manager of the functional players, right? But if we were to do a 4-4-2, I'd take Roy Keane, I'd take Lothar Matthäus, and we could stick David Beckham on the right wing just to stand there and whip across.
I was thinking about that. Looking at our strikers, I was actually very much contemplating either Beckham or Downing.
The corridor of confusion.
Well, I had 3. I had Stuart Ripley, David Beckham, and Stuart Downing as 3 functional wingers to throwing crosses for the striker.
Plays his crosses into the corridor of certainty every time.
Yeah. But I'm happy.
I'd have Beckham on one side, and I'd have Darren Anderson. The most functional left winger ever.
Oh yes, great shot. I think we fucked up with the formation. You're right. I just copied Phil's formation. I didn't copy his players. I copied his formation because he was like Eager Beaver, the first one to post it in the group as he is. And then I just copied the formation. But you're right. We missed out on a fucking trick there.
I think should have been. I think we should revert to 4-4-2. Honestly, a 4-4-2.
We'll move on. We'll watch this space with that one, right? And we'll wait till it comes to the forwards, and we'll have a little debate on that for the Portagers, right? So we'll come back to that. We'll go to the forwards now on the Flair team, and you've all gone with 2 out of the 3, and the one that you didn't all agree on should be the first one on the list for me. But I'm not picking these teams, lads. We'll leave the Brazilian one for a minute, and we'll start with our Argentinian choice.
Yep.
Diego Maradona.
Yep.
All 3 picked him?
All 3 picked Diego Maradona. Are you surprised at that, Grizz? Yeah, you're surprised that he's all.
No. Pete sometimes goes for sort of out of the curve ones, but if he's gone for Maradona, I've gone for Maradona.
Wait. Oh, we take it back. Pete didn't. No,
I told you. How did I fucking know? How did I know? He's not gonna pick the greatest reason. He's the greatest reason why people play football, in my opinion.
Possibly.
One of them.
Diego Maradona in the 1986 World Cup defined 24/7 football and sport for years to come. Right? That's
Too many people have a memory of Diego Maradona from 1990 onwards, just of our generation. But Diego Maradona before that was everything good about footballers. He was the backstory. He was the poor kid, the scruffy kid, fought everything. Little small fella, had to do everything to succeed and play. He was a prodigy at 17. He got overlooked for the 78 World Cup team by Menotti. Fell out with him over that. but he carried Argentina, and people think he carried Argentina to the 86 World Cup. He did carry Argentina to the 86 World Cup.
They're the poor team in my view.
Awful team. You're right. He got kicked out of the 82 World Cup. And he literally, I've said this on a pod before, like he was a leader of that team. He would take the blame for no marks that were missing their curfew, and Maradona wouldn't let them get the rap. Maradona took the blame. You're talking about a guy who was probably only 25, 26 in the 86 World Cup. You know, he was a leader at that age. Pete, can you be convinced of putting Maradona into a team here?
No, listen, I've dropped a clanger here. Now putting Diego Maradona into
no,
11.
That's fair enough. Yeah, we've all dropped clangers in our team, and that's your clanger. Howler.
Definitely.
Can I say something? Right, okay, Keith, I know you're going to disagree with me, and I know we'll get on to why I don't have a certain person in my Flair 11, right? But everything that person represents nowadays was invented by Diego Maradona. It's not new, right? The style of play and the methods that happens is all because of what Maradona suddenly made realistic to everybody else. He's perfected it. And that's why I would take him into the other team.
He's done it nearly 700 times, mate. And that's the thing, you know.
Yeah,
look, I'm not going to sit here and argue against Maradona. Just can't
Maradona,
do it.
Maradona does it at a time when the pitches are shite and you're allowed to tackle people from the knee down. Right.
This is an interesting shout Phil makes about Messi, because I'm sure he's talking about Messi, right? Now, so that means me and Pete have got Messi in our teams and Phil hasn't. Is that what it means?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
No. Okay, so I don't know how do you want to go about this one? What is the other one we agree on? So
you
2 out of 3
haven't got Messi in any of your teams, Grizz.
You don't have Messi in your front three either.
Okay, that's a howler.
Yeah, it is a howler, Grizz. It is a howler, but it's an acceptable howler, I think, because
Phil's explained why.
No,
I wasn't thinking.
You could
that.
probably look at it as a cigarette paper between Maradona and Messi. You can have both.
Well, can I say one thing, Keith? And we're talking about the Flair 11, right?
Yeah.
And this is where my choice of Flair centre forwards or forwards come from, is because they have a signature. They have signature skills that you don't see any other players do, right? So when I think of Maradona, his close control in the box, you see loads of players do that nowadays, right? Yeah. But his ability to pass on the run without actually looking up or looking anywhere. We're talking about the no-look pass. His game was played as a no-look game. It's phenomenal. When I think of Maradona, I think of all the no-look ability that he had.
I am very much convinced now, because I've just thought about it. And as Phil was talking, I played it out in my head. Messi, for me, definitely goes into the functional 11 of all time, the best functional player of all time. Because in our Flair 11, when we want our Flair players, when they're near the goal, to be backheeling it, crossing it, doing a step over. Messi's just going to score.
Yeah.
I think he's doing him with the service.
Yeah, Messi's just going to score. Messi's going to score.
I tell you what the hang on, Keith. I tell you what the disservice is.
I don't want to score yet, Pete.
Messi. With our Flair players, I don't want to score. But Messi makes the incredible look ordinary. I sat behind a goal watching Liverpool in the semi-final, and I watched that man put the ball in the only part of the goal that Alisson didn't have covered. People talk about top corner. That ball wasn't on target until it actually curled in. It's difficult to explain. He makes it look easy. Now, don't get me wrong. I know what you're saying. He doesn't do a million step overs like Cristiano Ronaldo. Doesn't make it. But beating 5 and 6 players at the peak,
I think he goes into both teams.
It's not functionality.
I disagree, and this is where when we come back in 20 years' time and you're watching Juby Ubies or whatever it is that it is at that stage, right? And you can just click your eye and
make a comeback.
Yeah, right. I still stand. I do not believe that people will go back to the signature Messi goals, right? Because they aren't the goals that make you go like you see the game and you see what happens and you go, whoa, right? But when you see the other lads' goals and you see the things that they do in the context that they do it in, that's where the difference happens. And that's what you go back to when, okay, we're going to talk about our captain of the Flair 11 is Ronaldinho. If you put on a highlights tape of Ronaldinho, he does things there that has never been repeated and will never be repeated. He does stuff that I've never seen a footballer do. He invented the Elastico. I know we've seen it.
Didn't.
Rivellino
invented the Elastico.
No, I'm going to disagree with you. Rivellino did a form of the Elastico. Ronaldinho just took the Elastico to a whole new generation.
He made it his own.
Okay, we agree with Ronaldinho. we agree Ronaldinho possibly captains it, or Ronaldo or Maradona. Either one of them.
He's all unanimously selected Ronaldinho.
So that's Ronaldinho. Honorable shout goes to Romario. Gav Doyle said it in the WhatsApp. I'm ashamed that I didn't give him a mention in my team because he was my hero growing up. The ultimate toe punt finish, early, his touches, his brain. Again, just very much like Campos, didn't look like a footballer. You know what I mean? He looks like a wrestler, a Mexican wrestler, or something like that.
1,000 goals in his career.
Yeah, just insane. We talk about brain and we talk about intelligence. If there was maybe we can do an intelligent 11, footballing intelligent 11 another time. Romario would be in that one, but he doesn't reach the levels of Ronaldinho, Maradona, and I don't know if you're going to check the third one then.
People shouting about Pele. Get the boat. Pele was shit. We all know this, right? He's the most overrated footballer of all time, right?
He was good in Escape to Victory, but other than that.
Yeah.
So what are we doing with that then, Keith? What are we doing with the third? How are we going to
go? Look, Ronaldinho, let's give him a bit more than Ronaldinho is an exceptional footballer and he's the epitome of the Flair player, isn't he? I mean, people throw Neymar in. Does Neymar make it into this team?
No, Neymar's a shit footballer. He's a piss
poor. Phil.
Neymar represents everything that's wrong with the game of football.
So what? That's not the argument we're having here.
Flair.
All Neymar's good at is kissing his ma. That's all Neymar is good at.
I'm not having that. He's a magnificent Flair player. Magnificent Flair player.
It's not. He's a player that has.
I don't care about his character. I don't care about him and his mum.
He's a pretend Flair player. He's not even in the top 5 players at the moment.
The guys on this list, he doesn't get anywhere near it. He doesn't get anywhere near it.
He doesn't.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. I agree with that. But honourable mention, not even honourable because he's not honourable, but he gets a mention because he's a bloody good player.
I'd be more comfortable giving Christoph Stoichkov.
I'd put Firmino into this team before Neymar.
An honourable mention.
Honestly,
to be honest,
Neymar.
He just hasn't done anything.
He's not getting the team, so there's no point arguing about him.
Yeah,
I agree he doesn't get the team.
We're eating into Ronaldinho time here, lads. Come on.
Ronaldinho, lads, I'll tell you right. Ronaldinho also invents the no-lift shot. Yeah. He's the only fella that can take a shot from 40 yards without lifting his foot off the ground. I've never seen it. But the no-look pass he invents. I've never seen a player since Ronaldinho be able to take a shot from 40 yards out with no backlift.
No.
Like they talk about Letizia doing it from 25 yards, but Ronaldinho does this, and the goals he scores, the power he generates in both his feet. Like this isn't just off a left foot or a right foot. This is a fella who just pulled up just outside the center circle, goes right, see the goalkeeper off his line, ping, bang. The vision, everything about Ronaldinho. It's not just what he brought to the game, his ability to see and be aware of everything that was going on. The space around the pitch is just off the chart.
Absolutely, we all agree on Ronaldinho's description, and one of the things I use to describe Ronaldinho is, and I think I was on a show with Keith and Pete where I said, these days the games they make, sort of the PS4, whatever they're called, all the Pro Evolution, all the skills are based, in my opinion, on what Ronaldinho used to do 10, 12 years ago. That's the way to look at it. But John OG says something there, and he's mentioned a player there, and I'm traumatized that we can't put him into a team.
No, he's in my team. He's in my team.
He's in your team, Pete?
He's in my team. Yeah, he's in my team.
Do you know what, lads? Keith, I know you're going to have the final say, but I'm very close to you, right? And I'm going to plead with you to put Ronaldo in this team, and then we'll do a controversial switch because I think me and Phil agree on the Messi because he has to be in a team, but he goes into the all-time great functional.
Well, he's the best finisher. He's the best finisher of all time.
Therefore, he goes into.
I've never seen anybody make
space. You've got to make space for Ronaldo R9. I don't care what anyone says. Ronaldo R9. Come on.
The problem I have with this, right, is
go on.
Ronaldo, right, El Phenomeno, whatever. He hadn't got injured. If he hadn't got injured, right, in my opinion, it's the greatest finisher of all time. He'd be possibly the greatest player of all time. But he got injured, and he was still amazing when he got injured. Lads, Johan Cruyff as a Flair player is so underrated. Yeah, what Johan Cruyff done to football as a whole, as a player, as a coach.
You didn't pick him though.
I did.
Phil picked him.
In the forwards.
Yep.
Grizz, just so you know, you picked them.
My forward line was Ronaldinho. Who did we pick? Ronaldinho, Cruyff, and Maradona.
They were my three as well. But
yeah.
But John OG's just reminded me Brazil Ronaldo, and that sent shivers up my spine. That's the effect that he has on me.
I agree.
So
it's a hard one to...
Johan Cruyff is sexy, is like Lalana, you know. Do you know what I mean? But
no,
doing your best to get him out. Doing your political best.
El Phenomenal.
It's hard. It is hard.
I think in fairness, when we talk about Cruyff, it kind of transcends the game. It's more what he did, you know, in general. It transcends as a player. It's about the game. It's about managing players while you're still playing. It's about changing the way people think about football. It's about changing attitudes to the game as a sport.
Guys, I've just thought Maradona, Ronaldinho, and Ronaldo. Come on, are we really saying that that's not pay-per-view? Like
Johan Cruyff invented a turn.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
It's named
the first guy that suffered the Johan Cruyff. I mean, I think he's still suffering. You know,
we're talking about Flair. If
Johan Cruyff on the penalty with Jesper Olsen, where they passed it and done a 1-2 and left. Like, Johan Cruyff is an innovator. He's a Flair innovator. Total football. Johan Cruyff.
Is there anyone we can take out of the midfield then to put Johan Cruyff in? Well, think about it.
So you want to take Laudrup out and put Cruyff into the
midfield? You
midfield?
Talking about changing the formation. We could change the formation and take out Laudrup, put in Johan Cruyff.
I'll tell you what
we could do. R9.
I have a better idea. I'll tell you what we can do. We can take Laudrup out and put Ronaldinho in as the front of the two lads in midfield, right? So we can get Ronaldinho to drop
ahead of the two, behind the three.
Exactly, right. And then behind the three, on either side of Ronaldo, we can have Maradona on one side and we can have Cruyff on the other, and we have Brazilian Ronaldo up front on the top.
I'm sold.
Right, so we're putting Cruyff and Brazilian Ronaldo in here.
Yeah.
We have to.
And Kev is right. We're heading into the 4-2-4 destination of total football and Brazilian teams of the 70s. So
that's fine.
You know what? This is the bleeding.
We've made it realistic. We haven't just done what retards do and put players out of position and just like we've made sense of it. No, we really have. We've made sense of it.
Yeah.
Before we move on, 59 likes. Come on, lads, lash them in. We're having a bit of crack, but we're keeping you entertained, surely.
Dave Lennon, CR7 as a sub. Dave, I'd argue that he should be in the functional 11 as well. I think
there's nothing Flair about him.
Like, he does loads of step overs and it's meant to look flary and everything, right? But the way he actually plays, he plays in very straight lines, which is very functional and robotic. Exactly. And his headers is about jumping in the air.
What a header of a football. What a header of a football. I mean, to be honest with you, that guy, if that guy decides to play as a static number 9, you know, until he's 45, he'll do well. I mean,
super slow-mo and ultra HD TVs have done lots for him, in fairness.
Yeah, I think Shawnee picked him as the best header of all time, and I didn't argue. Yeah.
After Batistuta or Shearer.
Well, do you know what, lads? Let's talk. So before we move on, we'll recap our Flair 11. We've got Manuel Neuer in goal, Cafu, Marcelo, Lucio, and Van Dijk at the back. Very flirty. We've got Hulla. We've now got Hulla, Zidane, Ronaldinho. Hulla and Zidane in midfield on their own.
Yeah.
With Ronaldinho, Johan Cruyff, Diego Maradona, and Ronaldo. Lads, that's outrageously flirty. I like that. Messi isn't in the team. I'm not happy.
No, well, let's discuss.
Let's discuss. So that's the team done, dusted. I like it. Put a fork in them there. Done. FC Porridge. We've got Ray Clements, Javier Zanetti, Philippe Lam, Paolo Maldini, Giorgio Chiellini. We've got Roy Keane and Lothar Matthäus as our only midfield options at the moment, because we're switching to a more conservative 4-4-2 to combat the 4-2-4. So, how are we gonna? Let's look at our options for the forwards that you have, right?
Right.
So,
I think we all picked awful ones.
Well,
no,
do you know
I didn't. I picked quality ones.
We're putting Messi into we're going to put Messi into the functionals.
Yeah,
have to.
Are we all agreeing on that? He has to be in the team.
I didn't think of that, but Phil has made sense of it.
If you don't think he's flared enough, and he's very robotic and alien. Like we'll put him into.
He's the best alien in the world ever. Football's ever seen.
If you were to create a footballer through artificial intelligence, right, to be the best footballer in the world, they would create your man Messi.
Yeah,
I can't remember
a tall version of Messi.
Messi.
Yeah, probably tall. Maybe with Ronaldo's height and head and power. That's the only bit that you add in, right?
So where are we playing? What's going on with the formation? I'm confused.
Well, we put Messi has to go in, right? So we're going to go with a 4-4-2. If you need to, you could put Messi on the left-hand side of a 4-4-2.
I think we should put him in as the little fella off the big fella in a 4-4-2.
Yeah. So more of a 4-4-1-1.
Yeah.
Ultra conservative.
A bit like when Rafa used to play with Gerrard just behind Torres.
Yeah.
But had the lads more functional on the wings as opposed to being as attack-minded. Yeah.
There you go. So we'll do that. So we're only looking for one then. So let's look at the options you've thrown in. So Grizz and Phil have both gone for Thomas Muller.
Boring.
Phil has also
there you go. You said it, Pete.
Lewandowski.
No way, Lewandowski. What a player! He's got everything, but he's not boring, and he's not.
But he hasn't got flair.
Yeah, he has got flair. He's got a lovely touch. Oh, watch him play, you don't think boring. I think
again, if I'm going to design a striker, I design Lewandowski.
Muller.
Now, Muller, Lewandowski, that's who Phil has, and Phil had gone for Messi and anyway in his functional forwards, right? Grizz has gone for Muller, Klose, and Shearer. P has gone Shearer, Batistuta, and Kevin Keegan. So we've changed our criteria.
Keith, block your man Owen Burke quickly.
What?
That's not the Owen Burke. That's a fake one.
Yeah.
Owen Burke's a good fella.
What's going on?
I'm just seeing something appearing up there. There's G's and GEs coming in. So I don't know what's happening there.
He won't. Like if it's Owen Burke, he won't. He's a good fella. This must be a fake one or something.
No, I reckon he's just going to spell out something like Leighton Gerd Muller or something.
All right.
Yeah, he's a good fella. Sorry, go on, Keith. So,
sorry, one forward. I don't
know what Phil's done to this formation. I haven't got a clue. All I know is Messi's playing in the hole.
Yeah, but what we said, instead of it being 4-3-3, because the functional 11 probably wouldn't be, they'd be more conservative. And we've gone with, so give me one forward, right, to play as the lone target man. Two of them have gone with Shearer. Phil, I know, is dying inside at the thoughts of Alan Shearer being in this team. Can you be convinced? Next
question. It's a celebration.
And how many times did you see that celebration?
No.
278 times.
He's not even a good functional forward. He was just your English centre forward in the 90s, easily replaced. He was shit at Southampton as well, right? So like this is not good enough. The lads that we picked, I'd rather pick Harry Kane over Alan Shearer if you want to go for pure functional centre forward.
He's not getting
Owen's a good bloke. He was trying to spell Gerd Muller. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. Owen. Sorry. I just want being careful.
So basically, look.
Rushy was the shout, Keith, that I threw in, that if you're going to throw Alan Shearer into the conversation, then you go for the better version, which was Ian Rush.
How about Shevchenko?
Shevchenko, I don't disagree with you here, because that's where the Lewandowski shout comes from as well. They're both these, if you think of archetypal number 9, to be fair, you could pick Van Basten, but he just did outrageous things in his career, so you can't say Van Basten.
I didn't pick him.
Honorable mention.
But I would definitely, in my head, I was going with Lewandowski, but Shevchenko will go with as well. Again, a perfect number, big man to go alongside our little man and Messi.
I was just going to say, Keith, if you're going to go down the route of Lewandowski and who's the other one we just mentioned?
Shevchenko.
Then you got to pick. You got to put him to the side and then bring Batistuta.
Let me make the case for Batistuta, right?
Yeah.
Big, strong,
I'll be straight back.
Superb header of a football. As good of a volley of a football as you see. Can hold it up. Was very good at the start of his career. Very, very good at the end of it. When the pace went, was still functional. That's my case for, and obviously did the numbers. The case for Kevin Keegan is, what was he great at?
Nothing.
You can't think of anything he was great.
International superstars.
Yeah.
No, but exactly. He wasn't great at anything, but he still did the numbers. You know, for me, Kevin Keegan, you can't have him in the team with Messi.
You're underwriting Kevin Keegan there. He's one of those.
What was he great at? What was he great at, though?
He was good at everything, but excellent at nothing.
Yeah.
But that's the definition. That's the definition of functionality.
Skills, twitches, turns, European Player of the Year, World Player of the Year. Like, to ignore Kevin Keegan is to ignore. But then again, we put Messi into that position, so he's not getting in ahead of Messi.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, and that's why I'm making the case for Batistuta. Oh, Henrik Larsson's a great shout.
No,
but, you know, outrageous.
He wasn't good enough, in fairness.
But Batistuta.
He's not good enough to make the Flair 11, so he wouldn't be in the non-Flair 11. Batistuta, Shevchenko, or Lewandowski. That would be one I'd love to open up to the public and say, which one would you go for if you're going to go for a Flair? If you're going to go for your functional number 9, who was the most functional number 9 out of those three?
Yeah. What three?
Because they're generational. They're almost a generational striker. One after the other. You go from Batistuta to Shevchenko, and then you go to Lewandowski. They're like the continuation of this long line of the great number 9.
Of the lethal centre forward, very
archetypal number 9s. That's the one.
Christian Vieri.
Raul isn't getting a shout either, but then again, see, Messi is in the hold, so Raul will be the greatest functional number 7 if we didn't have Messi in that side.
Yep, agree. So who did we go for? Batistuta.
I'd go
the Argentinian connection. Can you imagine? They're on the same wavelength.
Somebody saying Luis Suarez. Luis Suarez should be in the Flair 11 if you're going to put him in, because he's just outrageous the way he plays.
He was Flair the same way, and I know we've put Messi.
He's on the bench.
No, but Luis Suarez is a player that gets you on the edge of your seat, and you know he certainly is a Flair. But he's not functional. He's fucking as unorthodox as it gets.
Yeah.
I'd lean towards Batistuta as well in this, because Butragueño's another good shout there by own.
It's a great shout.
Centre forward who was just all about goals. Inzaghi, another one, always offside, but he just lived to score goals.
Chris Sutton.
Yeah. Why not?
Kevin Nolan.
It'd be ironic if he got in ahead of Shearer. Is great.
Andy Carroll.
Inzaghi's not. You know, if you're going to go Inzaghi, then you're going to have to go Gerd Muller.
Yeah. Somebody's mentioned
if you're going to go Inzaghi, then you're going to have to go Gerd Muller. And if you're going to go Gerd Muller,
Christian Vieri's a great show.
But he's not. But he's not as good as a Batistuta.
No, I don't think he's as a robot. I think Christian Vieri is one of my favourite players of that era. I think he falls between the two teams here. I think he's not porridge enough for the IKs, and I don't think he's flared enough for the Flairs. Mike Newell, that Owen Burke is thrown in.
I think Shearer's a very good shout. I think you're just being racist.
I don't like Alan Shearer. I can't stand
him. Yeah, that's racist.
Yeah, it's not really. He's a bald white man like myself, you know.
Gary Lineker, Dave Lennon. That's a fantastic show. Gary
Shearer, you're not sleeping on Shearer. Shearer was insane.
Gary Lineker is a poor man's Ian Rush. So
you're right.
Yeah.
Klinsmann's
another good one. Rudy Vuller is another one.
Yeah.
Gerd Muller.
I said Gerd Muller. You're going to go to Inzaghi, but then you're going to have to change the system, Phil. Then you're going to have to go. You're going to have to change Messi to the right, and then who are you going to bring in the left?
None of them will do what Batistuta will do for Messi up top.
I think so.
I go with Messi. Absolute clinical. I'm going, boys. I'm over the onions here. I'm going Batistuta. Right,
Crespo, that was a late show.
Crespo's a great show as well.
So then, what do we got left to pick? Two midfield,
two midfielders now to put in on this team.
Beckham is going on the right hand side.
I was happy to have a Beckham in there. Was he a bit flirty, like with his mohawk and his earrings and his sarongs and all that sort of shit?
No, he wanted everyone to ignore the fact. He wanted everyone to ignore the fact that all he could do was cross a ball and take a free kick. Like his whole repertoire was cross a ball. He couldn't run fast, so you had to set your whole team up that he could just sit in his zone on the right hand side and you have a great right back behind him.
I think I got two shouts for Beckham's position, but possibly Beckham wins because he's a celebrity. I think Dirk Kuyt and Antonio Valencia.
Yeah, but they're better options than that.
Kel will be going on the left.
Well, in my original team, I got overruled. Zanetti was my right winger in my Porridge 11.
See, with Zanetti still in this team, he can cover. He can do Beckham's running up and down the pitch from. Beckham can just sit there and be the right.
Beckham comes in field, because you got to remember the midfield we've got. Not many, should I say, hard workers in terms of covering ground. Beckham will help covering ground. So you're right. Zanetti can go on the overlap. Beckham can come inside with Keane and Gullit.
Yeah,
Messi's got a free role. Messi hasn't got a role in this team, and I think that leaves us with a left winger or whatever, left midfielder or whatever you want to call him.
Yeah,
I can't think of anyone at the top of my head.
John Barnes,
Darren Anderson.
John Barnes is
Mr. Silk, man. Come on,
Darren Anderson.
Giggs is a good shout. Runs in straight line.
I'm not going with a Man United midfield there, lads. We've Keane and Leighton Beckham there looking to sneak already.
Andrei Kanchelskis.
Yeah. Lee Sharp. What's Lee Sharp doing these days? He hasn't got on a team in ages. Let's give him a bleeding hook up.
Quinton Fortune.
I can't think of listen, we've named some absolute porridges, but we're talking world.
Right. Yeah. And I can buy into the Beckham one because he was very good at what he done, but what he done was very fucking functional. It was
Antonio Nunes.
You're being silly now. We've got an hour and 36 minutes in without you being silly. But now you're being silly.
He done well for 1 hour 36 minutes.
It's there. Emma Cavanagh's right. Nedved. Ultimate functional left-sided midfielder.
Nedved.
Would you be happy with Ed Nedved on the wide side of a midfield?
It's either him or Mark Overmars.
Good shout.
Nedved. Not having Nedved. Nedved's a different level of footballer. Different level. If things are tough, Nedved could street fight as well. He can get stuck in, and then he could turn it on. It's Nedved really want and he chip in with it.
Like a Mark Overmars.
Guys, Red Steve. I mean, how he's not in a functional 11 of all time is beyond me. We've got to make it. He's like the Messi of, system players. I don't know. I mean, James Milner is the original IKEA.
Is Papa Nedved a better show for that? Is he?
He was the James Milner of the Juventus side for 400 years.
Yeah. I'm happy with Nedved. That's a great shout.
Did he win the European Championships of the Czech Republic?
96, yeah.
So
no, he runner up.
Oh no, they were runner up. Germany won it.
No, he won it. Yeah.
No, Germany
golden goal.
Oliver Bierhoff scored there. So
because you got to remember the boring 11 ain't gonna play out with out and out wingers and spread this fucking game. There's gonna be no space anywhere on the pitch. Yeah. So the midfield we picked actually makes sense. It's just gonna play in triangles and blocks and cover spaces. Yeah. So I'm happy with
give the ball to Messi and let him find space to feed Batistuta if he needs to or score himself.
That's basically two up front.
Team of this team, yeah. That's the sort of the game plan. So lads, we've come to an agreement on this. We'll run through the teams again, right? So we've got the what?
Cambiasso, what a shout! Cambiasso. That's an incredibly functional footballer. Yeah.
Oh, I've just thought of someone, man, but I don't know where he would go in.
Quick,
Iron Robin. Functional, quite superb.
For me, he falls into the Vieri gap where he was flary enough to be flairful, but not flary enough to be in the Flair.
I think he's functional, but he doesn't get into this. I think he's too flary for the functional 11.
Will he do it as SALAH?
The most successful one trick ever.
Yeah.
But that's it. But that's how good it was.
What a shout by Avo that Nedved's eyes were too close together. To be fair.
Yeah, okay. Nedved. Now look, Nedved's in. He looks like Patrick Swayze in Point Break. He's in for
and now he's director of football, which means that he has that pointy head syndrome, which you need to be in the functional side of the football game. Right, because most of these lads are pointy heads when it comes back to it, right? So you've got, I can't remember who was in goal again, Ray Clements. right?
Yeah.
He was coach and wrote books and did all that type of stuff. And Zanetti is known as an educated footballer. We have Philip Lamb has a doctorate in economics and has given his advice, and he's part of now the Bayern Munich setup. Can't remember who any of the rest of that. So yeah, Nedved as a director. I'm
going to go through the teams, right? We'll go through the teams. We'll start with the Flair team, and we'll put this to a vote on the Twitter page. We'll put these two teams up and let people vote on who they think could win. Yeah. So the Flair team, we've got Manuel Neuer, Cafu, Marcelo, Lucio van Dijk, Hulle, Zidane, Ronaldinho, Cruyff, Maradona, and Ronaldo, Brazilian Ronaldo. Outrageous, right? So it's a 4-2-4, flexible. Sexy. That it could be a 4-1-5 if we really wanted it to. And then they're up against the brick wall of Clemens, Zanetti, Lam, Maldini, and Chiellini. That is an outrageous defense. Just as well. In front of them, they're going to have Roy Keane and Lothar Matthäus. They're going to be flanked by David Beckham and Pavel Nedved, and they're going to have Messi in front of them and Gabriel Batistuta. So there's goals in that team, and it's going to be hard to break down. So I think there's, the Flair team is sexy. It is like, Ole, Samba football, all that sort of stuff. But I think the Porridgers are going to take a bit of beating in that, aren't they? It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah. The last two shouts, which is the fair one. I'm going with THIAGO Simeone as the manager of the Porridgers. Right, I don't think you can get any more of a functional manager than THIAGO Simeone. Right, I think
I'm going to say Pep Guardiola for the Flair team. Absolutely,
Jurgen Klopp. It's made for Klopp.
Guardiola made that Barcelona team. Pep Guardiola. So I suppose Frank Rijkaard.
He just robbed fucking Johan Cruyff, like so.
You want to make Johan Cruyff the manager?
He's a player manager. Yeah.
No. He's in the team, isn't he? If he wasn't, we could have given him the manager.
11. So yeah, Flair 11 actually. He's the Flair manager.
Perfect. They don't have a manager. It's the Flair 11.
No, I think we're doing a disservice to Pep Guardiola by not making him the manager of the Flair 11.
Porridge 11, in fairness, Pep Guardiola.
No, Ben Ebbett makes a great show. Marcelo Bielsa has to be the Flair 11's manager.
That's fair as well.
The man
Simeone is
but Phil, Bielsa teams. Can you imagine this Flair 11 running? How much of Bielsa team wants his team to run? I can't. We can't. Pep's the one. I know we all hate him.
I can imagine Ruud Hulle telling him to fuck off and letting them tell everybody what to do, and then they're okay. Now he's gone. This is what we're really going to do.
No, I have it. What was your man, the greatest ever manager of Flair players of all time?
Who was he?
Rinus Michels.
No.
Rinus Michels.
Real Madrid manager at the 90s.
The one who won all the big things.
Vicente del Bosque. He managed his generation of Flair players.
Who managed the Galacticos? Was it Del Bosque?
Dennis
Del Bosque. Yeah. If you manage the Galacticos, then it's Del Bosque.
It's Del Bosque for me. He's the only one that was able to put all those Flair players onto a pitch and win it until Zidane comes along. But since Zidane is in the team, he's not managing it. So it's Del Bosque.
Simeone for the other one.
Yeah.
The key was Makelele, to be honest with you. It's more than anything was putting Makelele amongst all them stars and just telling them just to
first names I threw out.
We're going to put a vote up. Can I just tell everyone that's watching, right? That thanks for watching for the first bit, right? But we are going to do another follow up to this, which will be Nutjob 11, right?
I might get a Columbia jersey out for that one again.
Yeah, we get Nutjob 11 versus I can't remember. We'll think up of another 11 to play against, right?
Yeah.
Football Intelligence 11.
Football Intelligence 11. Nutjob 11 versus the intelligent.
Yeah, so the ones that had the physical attributes but were mad and mental against just the intelligent ones where space was, beautiful. Just used space as a weapon.
Hard man 11 versus exactly. Hard man 11.
Hard man 11. Nutjob 11 versus Yeah. Okay.
How we can deal with this? This has legs. So listen, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. It was a bit of fun, a bit of crack to get us over the international break. As Phil said, I think it's something we will come back to. Certainly, if it's a forum or it's under some other umbrella, I think these sort of shows are a good interactive bit of crack. So it was great to have the lads on. Before we finish up, I just want to say Wednesday night we have a quiz. Andy is going to be the quiz master, and myself, Gav, and Jamie Home are going to be on there. It's Premier League era. I'm not too happy about that. I like me black and white stuff. So
that's a great shout. Jer Cal's Nutjob 11 versus a Shithouse 11. Can you imagine? Like,
can someone technical help out my man here? Because he says he watches us. He usually watches us on YouTube, Now TV, but can't like unless you pause the screen. Right. What does he mean by that? Anybody know what he means by that?
I don't know. We'll figure that one out.
All right.
And give him some guidance and tips with us.
Let's see if we can find something on it. Yeah. So look, as you said, we've a quiz on Wednesday. We'll be. I don't know what else is planned. I think Grizz, if you want this week, or are you quiet?
We'll
watch this space. Is it?
Watch this space type thing. Yeah.
Grizz, I have an idea. What about this, lads? If Gav can hook up his Xbox with FIFA, right, and sets up the two teams and gets the computer to play itself, then we can find out who could win in this match. Do you not think that would be a brilliant idea?
That's a magnificent idea.
That's a fantastic show. All these going to be in there. I don't know what way this FIFA works with Legends.
I'm sure we can figure. Let's figure it out, and we'll do it. If we have to pay for it, we'll do it. But
that's a magnificent idea.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a 10-minute match, just to throw it on to see what the real outcome is. We can do a poll on Twitter and then get FIFA to be played, 2 computer teams, so there's no people involved, and just let them play out and see what will happen. Because the computer decides then.
Yep, good idea. I do like that. I think we might struggle for a couple of them, but you never know.
Yep.
We'll see. Great idea. So yeah, we'll be back, as you said, quiz on Wednesday, Fatback 4 on Sunday, and maybe 1 or 2 little other drops in between. But look, Grizz, thanks for joining me tonight. Me and yourself making a debut on the forum. It was fun. It was interesting.
Yeah, amazing. Absolute honor. Thank you for inviting me on.
Excellent. Peter, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Quite regular these days on these waves. Thanks for joining us.
Never a chore. Big love from Spain.
That's what we like to hear. And Phil, a regular on the forum. Thank you for joining us. I hope you had fun. I hope you fell in love with football a bit again for the last hour and a half.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Bear down. That's all I care about now.
Get wrap this up, Keith.
Wrap this. I want to see Lamar Miller run for 150 yards tonight, right? So that's all I care about at this moment in time.
There you go.
Go Bears.
You say that, but would he get into the functional or the Flair 11? That's what we want to know.
Depends on whether he's come back from this ACL. The Titans will miss him. Come on.
There you go. Well, listen, look, this has been the forum. It's been a bit of crack, and we'll see you all again soon.